Hello, hi, welcome to what I'm lovingly calling the pre-filming era. In this particular vlog, I am continuing specifically queer series because this episode goes up in June. This is kind of monthly sometimes. I don't know what is happening anymore, but it is basically monthly. This one I'm going to be reading for 2 weeks. It is currently the 24th of May, which is a Friday, right? And so I believe it will take me until the 7th, if I remember properly. So technically by the time you're seeing this, it's done by 2 weeks or a week and a half or something like that. 2.5 weeks actually, I think. But that is what this is. That's what's gonna happen here. I read books that are continuing series. Me currently putting up the time-lapse screen recording of the list of series I'm in the middle of. It is currently 71 still. It is on the whiteboard. I just checked. But also, again, queer version. So I did do the math also for just the queer, because I have it also in sections of genre, and so I can automatically filter it to just show queer books because I have that in the genre section. And so because of that filtering, I think it's 18 of those, not as many as I thought. And so this is me basically telling you what some of those are going to be. The one that I'm starting today is #Rev, which is the direct sequel of Junkie, which I read 2 months ago. Again, I read it for the first time in last Pride Month. I think it was in the random number generator chose what books I read. God, that was a wild time. But yeah, I read it then, reread it recently. It's like one of my favorite books of all time. This is a direct sequel. Like, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger of whether or not Trent and Drew are gonna break up. It follows Trent and Drew. I think it's Drew that is a car race driver, whatnot. He's not professional, right? It is a thing in the first one where it's starting to become on a professional level, and Trent is his best friend and kind of manager, but also he's about to graduate from college, and he's like he's like the head of this frat, and a bunch of members of the frat, not a bunch, like a few, maybe like 3, the main one being Connor. They're basically a team. You can't run this, you can't, you're like gay, but in not nice words, you know, the words we don't say. The words we don't say. Before Trent even realizes that he's gay, for Drew, I'm not gonna go in depth about it because I will not shut up if I go in depth about that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and I always want to read Rev because it's a direct sequel. It ends with Trent trying to break up with Drew, and Rev does start with Drew being like, I can't let him do this. So, because of things that have happened at the end, because of no rights are. It's always like Callum or Connor, that's the evil one. If that podcast has taught me anything. So that's one of them. That one I am going to start today, right? But other ones are mostly ones that are actually on my 24 and 2024, which is why I'm stating here, and or my Buzzwordathon prompt for June also fits into this, right? And I feel like there's another one I also saved on Libby, downloaded on Libby this morning, but I'll talk about that one if I get to it, right? Type thing. Hello, hi, we're ignoring the sound of the heavy wind outside. I finally finished Rev. Did it? It took me a week. Is it the next Thursday? Yes. Whoops. Listen, it may have taken me a week, but at least I remembered to screen record the list of series I'm in the middle of before I mark the second one is done on it. That's it from this series for this vlog, really. I'll talk about it a bit, but the third one is the only straight one in the whole series, and then book 4, 5, and 6 are also gay, from what I can tell. At least book 4 is, right? Very excited about that one because the character that one's about is the younger brother of the third one's male love interest, and like a friend of Trent and Drew's, but also that brother is like basically their adopted gay child in this one. So I personally made that joke, and then I think it was Drew made the same joke. So we love that for me personally, the person I am. Very exciting. That one, third one is enemies to lovers, so even though it's not gay, I'm still excited because, you know, this one was technically friends to lovers, and I'm not usually a friends to lovers person. But Birds Return season 3 and these 2 books. Speaking of 2 books, I rated this one 4 stars, and I have a reason, which is it doesn't feel like it should have been its own book. Looking at the rest of the series, I think book 5 is the only one that's around this length, which is just short of 300 pages. The rest of the books in the series are just short of 500 pages. And while I don't feel like any of it should be cut out, you know what? Scratch that. There is sometimes, you know, just a few times that like either Trent or Drew, depending on whose point of view you're in, I think it's usually Drew, right, will be like, they were driving, actually no, this one's an example of Trent. They were driving to Drew's family's place, because this is the one where they basically come out to everyone, right? And Drew's not really saying anything because he's kind of in his head, and Trent is like, if this was a woman, I'd be worried, but because like we're men and we don't think like that, like that's a woman thing to like be in all in your thought thinking things and not telling your partner and how that's bad news, but because Drew's a man, I'm not worried about it. Like that type of thing happens maybe once every 50 pages. It's not that often. It's enough where you notice it, but not enough where it really affects the reading of it that much. I'll give it this one, Trent, like literally you turn the page and then Trent's like, though I think that's just a people thing, I don't think that's a woman thing, but like it is a thing in the books. Did I cry? Because, you know, coming out, part of it was Trent is both a big football player but also the head of a fraternity, and the end of the first one is some of the people in the fraternity learning about the relationship and being a little living daylights out of it, right? So a lot of it was them getting revenge on those 4 guys. Connor and his Goonies is what I call them. Yes, and when Drew used his computer science knowledge to hack into things and do things, God, that was funny. Seeing that biker punch Cutter in the face. It is a lot of masculine violence to get revenge, and I'm gonna ignore that issue. Right, that is like a thing. Like even when the main character for the 3rd one like catches them kissing, like Trent literally pushing him up against a wall and like, what do you think? Yeah, you know, so good times. But anyways, there's like a whole thing where they come out and both the football team and the fraternity are all there, and the football team is immediately just like, yeah, cool, sure. Like 2 people come in and start using gay slurs. There are a lot of gay slurs in this book, and they literally drag them out. It was kind of funny. Like the wolves are just like, yeah, cool. So but it was definitely on the fence for the fraternity. Both of them, when telling their parents, it was a bad time. Trent's grandmother was better, but both of them, yeah. But the next day they go to the fraternity, and it's basically a whole thing of like trying to get Connor removed as long with the Goonies. Like it's this whole thing where he's there like, okay, I'm gay, I'm gonna turn over the reins. I swear his name was Jack, but then in the last chapter his name was Zach. I'm not gonna talk about it. There's a little editing issues here and there. It feels like, listen, I know it's self-published and it feels like she should have paid for it to go through another round of copy editing, but that's fine. I'm not putting it against her because it's self-published, okay? Right? Like, I know it costs money and it's out of your own pocket. I get it. But basically it's him being like, okay, I'm handing over the reins. And also we have to talk about the shit that Connor did, including beating up the president with 3 other guys, like that whole thing, but also the homophobic stuff. And it's this big deal to Trent personally, not even like the people like who he considered family for a good few years. not liking him, disowning him because of his gayness, but because he spent so much time and energy into trying to make this fraternity into something better, and he's so worried that he wasted his time. So for them to show up and he's all like, okay, where are Connor and his goonies? He does not say goonies, I say goonies. And they're like, oh yeah, we tied them in the basement. So many people should have gone to jail with this book. We tied them up in the basement so that he wouldn't try anything, along with a few other guys who were also saying some homophobic shit. And Troy's like, okay. Cool. It's unanimous agreement that the 4 guys are kicked out. Cool. Connor does try to fight back, but literally it's like as he's leaving and Troy just slams the door in his face. It's kind of funny. But so not only are they tied up in the basement, but they're naked in only underwear. Honestly. Anyways, and then he gives the option to the other guys, who were just saying some homophobic shit over the night that also got tied up in the basement, be like, hey, you can either, like, stay and be a good fucking person, or you can get the fuck out. And only one guy leaves. The other guys are like, okay, I guess we're in the wrong. Also, one of the other guys in the fraternity comes out because he finally feels like he can be accepted, and, Jack, or Zach, it's actually Jack. I know it's Jack. It's just, like a good guy. Like, he recognizes what's happening. He recognizes Connor who beat him up and why. And he's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. But totally we should fuck over. Because, like, what the fuck, Connor? I've talked about this book for too long. So, you know, moral of the story is it definitely could have just, I don't know what could have been cut out really, other than some of the kind of sexist stuff. But, and made it into one long book. And I think she recognized that because the rest of the series is not, like, they're all in one book type thing. So it makes sense, right? Which is why this is getting 4 stars. Like, it's fine, it's good. It just wasn't the same impact it was the first one, of, like, them figuring out their sexuality and being together for the first time and all that cute, fluffy stuff. It was a lot of just heavy-handed stuff, and it just made sense if it was one book. That's the moral of the story. But I still liked it. 4 stars. Next one I'm going to read is What Feast at Night, because tomorrow's the last day of May, so I can read the Buzzworth problem, so I might as well read the 2 short books back to back. Coolio? Cool. Hello, hi. I am not for the whiteboard, because I'm about to film the May wrap-up, because it is June 1st. Happy Pride Month! Happy Pride Month! Got my pie nails, I already did them. I had a schedule, but whatever. But last night, I did finish What Feast at Night. So you can't see me wipe it off the whiteboard. I also have to update amount of books on my TBR, and also series I'm in the middle of, which should be 70, because that is a finishing of a series as far as I can tell. There's not going to be another one. But, I read What Feast at Night last night. I started in, like, the afternoon, but I finished it at, like, 11:42 p.m. Whoops. Yeah, it was good. I really liked it. This one follows, so Alex, I can never remember the proper, the country they're from. It uses specific pronouns for certain people. Soldiers have, I think it's ka and kar, though in, like, they're basically non-binary, right? And then, like, priests have va and var and stuff like that, right? So they are going to, it does say in the synopsis they use they, them pronouns in the synopsis for talking about Alex. I don't know. I may just say Alex every time. Alex is going back home-ish. It's like the family hunting lodge, right? And gets there, learns the caregiver of the house suddenly died. People are kind of suspicious about it, like thinking this creature from whatever killed him, right? And also Alex is at this place despite the fact that hates it there. It's always gross and rainy and cold and all this stuff, and loves Paris, but is there because the lady who really liked mushrooms, the mushroom lady from the first one, heard, hey, you're from this country that's always cold and wet, You know what that's great for? Mushrooms. And so Alex and their second, I guess, I don't know, employee, Angus, invite her, Angus and her kind of have a flirtation going on, to look at mold, or not mold, at, mushrooms. In order to do that, they have to hire on new people to take care of the house, and cook and whatnot, but also, Angus points out, hey, maybe we should hire some older lady because, she's English. The English people are very big about propriety, and yes, you're technically a soldier, but also technically not a man. But like, technically, right? They still view you as not like high enough in standing to basically propriety, blah 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 blah, right? In ye olde English times. So they agree to hire a it's like a plan they make to hire a older woman to come take care of the house. Literally the only person who will do this is this old widow and her grandson. And then some weird shit starts happening. The last 2 chapters, second to last chapter, shit gets weird. The first 2-3 chapters are pretty slow. Once the widow moves in, and once the mushroom lady comes to visit, weird shit is over the top. There's weird ghost things. And I am primarily in my romance era. That was not this. I was kind of struggling for the first few chapters because of that, but that's fine. I'm in romance era, and I'm not reading romance. And which is great, because I'm not reading Gentleman's Guide to Blood on the Blood next. Despite that one being a romance. But I am in a ghosty mood. I remember in the Flower Vlog, I read a book that was ghosty and murder mystery a little bit. And, you know, I loved that. I love that aspect. And I was like, I kind of want, like, a murder mystery that gets solved with ghosts. And, like, I'm just thinking in my head a bunch of other books similar to that I really liked the past year. So, right, for that purpose, it was very me-coded. The cover with the horses, that thing happens in the second to last chapter, I'm pretty sure. A lot of wild shit happens. And then it comes out where you learn, who the ghost is, why, all this stuff, and you're just like, oh, yeah, okay. Also, the writing style, it's written like it's by Alex in the future, noting, like, more than one occasion, like, Alex learns how the caregiver died, how people suspect he died, really, by this ghost, right? And then here's the story about the ghost and, like, the mythology about the ghost. And then has a dream that is how that mythology works. And Alex goes, yeah, I didn't think anything about it, and you may be recognizing, hey, are you an idiot? And I've never admitted to being the smartest person in the room, but also, you may recognize that this has to mean something, because it's not like you just came up and told me to tell you a story. This one time I went home and nothing happened, because, like, obviously something happened, and then, Boris, my favorite character, gets sick, and it's very suspicious, it's weird, very similar to how the caregiver died, right? And Alex is like, now you may be thinking if I thought of the caregiver at that moment and how it's very similar. And, no, I did not. Like, it's very funny. The writing style was great. There was, like, a lot of lines that I wanted to highlight. I didn't highlight most of them, but there were a few sections that I highlighted, especially Boris at the end, that was like, hey, hire me on to, like, take care of this place for you, because, like, yeah, all that shit may have happened, and, you know, it's not the place's fault, though. Like, the place still needs to be taken care of, despite the fact that all this shit happened, because, like, it was a sad thing that happened in the place, but it's not the place's fault. Same thing, like, similar to how something happened to us, but it's not our fault, and, like, we shouldn't be blamed, like, all that, which parallels how a lot of this book is Alex's PTSD, because, you know, Alex is a soldier, so PTSD from being a soldier, and analogy used at least on one occasion very heavily, is that you may leave the location, but it's like not the location's fault. Like, it's a war. Like, you didn't leave the war. You left the location of the war, but you didn't leave the war. Like, the war's still in your mind, right? And how Alex goes back to the war in head and everything, and so like it parallels that whole aspect that is just a prevalent thing throughout the book. Even with like the final battle with the ghost and everything, and it's good. I think I talked about it for too long. This is a 150-page book that I talked about for 7.5 minutes. And I rated it 4.5 stars. It is my favorite of the month because the only other book that was higher than that was a reread. So, thanks, T. Kingfisher. I should really read more T. Kingfishers. There's like one that I actually own. Maybe one day. But yeah, I liked it. It was good soup. Recommend. If you like the first one, go for it. I think I was thinking about this last night, and the first one was very much more like creature horror, like the hairs and everything like that. This one was more psychological horror. It was more of an aspect of like, is what Alex is dreaming actually happening, or is it Alex's mind mixed with the PTSD, mixed with like getting drunk and hearing these stories, making Alex dream these things? Like, is that what happening? And it's just a coincidence that Boris came down with pneumonia, like that whole aspect, which is another thing in another book that I read somewhat recently that I wish was done better, that I really like the idea of, that was done really well in this. So it's not really psychological horror, but kind of psychologically horror. I don't know. It's a thing I like. Hi, hello. We're ignoring the fan. It was hot today, okay? It was like 93 degrees. And my room is always the hottest. I did read all of When the Tigers Came Down the Mountain, which I also rated 4.5 stars. It follows I'm gonna go with that's how you pronounce their name. Traveling in the north, comes across tigers. Imagine my surprise when the tigers go to attack and start speaking, and then turn into a human woman. It's just a thing in this world. Anyways, to distract the tigers from trying to eat them, along with the people they're traveling with, and the mammoth. The mammoth is my favorite character. But to stop that from happening, or postpone it at least, because she is a cleric, who are basically people who spend their life traveling and writing down stories from other people, and putting it all in this big warehouse, so like everyone can like read the history of the whole world, blah blah blah, right? Tells the story of this really famous tiger, and the tigers are like, if you get it wrong, we will kill you, right? And so it cuts back and forth between the storytelling of the story, but also the tigers being like, that part's wrong, this is what really happened. So we see both versions, and the storytelling of the story in the story is really well done, but also just the story itself is really well done. It's complicated. Also, I'm not going to give the full details of what the story inside the story is, but basically it follows this really famous tiger, and her wife, and how they became wives, and how her human wife betrayed her, and the way I'm in my romance era, and it is kind of romantic. Both versions are kind of romantic. Whether it's like the tiger willingly was poisoned or put to sleep just because like it's her wife, like she'll do what her wife wants, and the poetry aspect, and them reciting the poetry to each other when the wife sets the tiger free. Just no matter which version it is, it's just really cute, and they lived happily ever after at the end. And then she and the people they're traveling with managed to escape, and that's it. That's the book. I learned that, I think I knew this, I think it is on the list that you saw, that did not have the Sworn Soldier, the What Peace at Night book series on there for the whole queer section, because for some reason it didn't have a label as queer. But the Singing Hills cycle, which is this series, I do have it labeled as like 8 books. I somehow forgot about that. I think there's 5 out now. I think so. I think there were 3 more. And one of them recently came out. So, you know, I may read the 3rd one in this vlog because they are available at Libby. I think books 3 and 4 are available at Libby. So if I have time, I will read it. Anyway, it was 4.5 stars and a great way to start June. And also I finished it at 11:30 last night. I did the same thing. I did it 2 days in a row. I'm tired. And I can't tell if it's from the heat or from me staying up late reading. 2 nights in a row. I mean, with Fisa Night, I had to stay up even later because it was a horror book. I had to stay up later to counteract that, okay? Anyways, next book, I'm going to pick up in like 5 minutes. The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks. Because of the 2 that I planned to read during this 2-week period, that is the one that is the most romantic, and I am in a romance era. There's another book series that has books with similar titles. I think it's like The Gentleman's Guide to something and something. I don't know. It's one of my favorite books of last year, and if there wasn't a waitlist on Libby, I would be reading that instead right now. Because I want to reread it so bad, and I pushed it back a few months with reading the sequel a few months ago, but like, it's June, I should be able to reread it, but that's not important for this vlog. But even if it's not for reread it, it wouldn't be in this. It's fine. But yeah, I did it. Look at me go. I'm gonna go read another book. This one's over 500 pages, send help. Hello, hi. It's been almost a week and we have things to talk about. And I'm gonna try to make it fast because I turned off my fan for this. But if you're the type of person who likes to pay attention to my whiteboard, you'll notice a certain very long titled book that happens to be the last book in a trilogy. Not there. I replaced it with Skyward. Nobleman's Guide to whatever. You can see the cover's up. I started it. I read the first chapter, which was like 9% of the book or something like that, because the chapters are hella long. I think there's only, like, it's an average amount of chapters for a normal size book, but the book is almost 600 pages. Like, it's obscene, and I spent a hoopla credit to get the audiobook, so I was like, okay, I don't think I can do this without the audiobook. Because, and hear me out, it's from the youngest brothers, is it Adrian? Something like that. Something like that is his name. Youngest sibling's point of view. I think I talked about this already. And, here's the thing. He has a lot of anxiety. So reading his thought process, and when I say a lot, it's like heavy, constantly. And like, I get it, some of it, but the person I am, as a person with anxiety, who also is not doing the best currently with it. Like, it's definitely not the worst it's ever been. But it's definitely worse than it is averagely. Like, it's not doing good. And it was definitely, I realized, re-triggering me. And then also, I started to feel like physically like shit. And so I soft DNF'd. I soft DNF'd because it was low-key triggering me. I'm gonna, read it at a later point in my life when I can handle it. I didn't officially DNF the series, I just put it on the low priority on my list on Notion. And so then, because I again was feeling shit and I don't want to read anything, I wanted an audiobook, so I didn't do, what was the other one I wanted to do? This Wicked Fate. I didn't do that one. Instead, I did Cruel Seduction. I think that's the name of it. The 5th book in the Dark Olympus series, which is a direct continuation of the 3rd and 4th one. Because the 3rd one is the one that's like the Ares trials. And so things that happen in that one connect to this one. Because also, the love interest is Hephaestus, who gets into power. He was a guy in the Ares trials. I think he was in the Ares trials. I'm 98% in the Ares trials. And then, who is Ares, ended up stabbing him in the leg. That's like a big thing in this book. But also, there's a whole thing where he kills Hephaestus from before in the 4th book. I feel like I brought up that this is all spoilers before. And so he becomes Hephaestus, and it's all part of this like secret plan. And so this book is very heavy on the political intrigue aspect. Like, there's these two sides, and the two main characters are both on either side, willing to do anything for the side, until Hephaestus realizes, hey, actually I'm on the wrong side. With the help of his best friend, and they end up having together as a poly 4. The way I had to try to describe this to the fish earlier. Okay, so there's Hephaestus and there's Aphrodite, who is the sister of Zeus, the current Zeus, and also who is now Ares, who is the woman who stabbed him in the leg. Right? A relationship. There is Aphrodite, who is the sister of the current Zeus, and also the current Ares, who is the one who stabbed Hephaestus in the leg. They are married. Right? To get married, she had to break it off officially with her long-term, on-off again boyfriend / lover, Adonis. Adonis is upset about this, but also quickly starts having feelings for Hephaestus, and does end up sleeping with him after they get married. But also there's like a bunch of other stuff happening with the political intrigue aspect. And so he's the only one that really understands Aphrodite. So then Hephaestus calls him to help with the situation, which causes them to go together, all three of them. But then Hephaestus has a best friend named Pandora. And Pandora is his best friend. They did briefly try to have a romantic relationship, but one, he's not good at romantic relationships. Two, she is definitely bi, but she's more woman leaning. So, and also she has recognized she is not built for monogamous relationships. She does not like them. She's more into being in poly. And so then her and Aphrodite start flirting. And initially, it's Aphrodite trying to get under Hephaestus' skin, because political intrigue. But she also kind of really likes her. And eventually, at one point, after the three of them do it, the two of them, the next day. And the long-term plan at the end of the book is that the four of them are moving in together, but Pandora is still not into monogamous relationships and is more poly, and so she is able to bring any other partner she wants to the house, as long as, like, it's not a safety concern, while also Aphrodite is with her, but also Aphrodite, Hephaestus, and I was doing the name so well. Andis? God. They are a throuple. So they're a throuple, but she's also over here with Pandora, who's also over here with whoever she wants. And it's a wild time. You know, this is more wild than most of the Taboo series. The first one still beats this, but the rest of the series is nothing compared to this book. Anyways, I'm rating it 4 stars, which I think is what I've rated most of them since the first one. Neon Gods, my favorite one. That book was so good. Anyways, that's what I did. Good times. It's just making me more excited for the Zeus and Hera book, because we see hints of their relationship throughout. And that's that. I'm gonna, oh, also in this one you learn that, Hades and Persephone from the first one are expecting a child. And I do have theories on who the secret behind the scenes villain who is planning all this shit. And it is totally Ursula from the, villain series. That's who my theory is. Anyways, that's it. That's the last book I read. It's Friday, so I got in this vlog, and start the next one. Whoops. But that one comes out before this one, so good times. Next vlog will be me reading books that Bestie picked for me for Pride Month. That should be next week. Fridays gaming videos, me Twitch occasionally. Fridays also podcast on podcast channel or Spotify, linked below. Look at me go. There's a whole playlist of this type of content. Just me finishing series. And then I think that's it. I'm gonna go start the next vlog. I gotta figure out what the heck that book's gonna be. Whoops.